Oh my god. So hot.
Welcome to the Daily Dose Plus. We're here again with the Insight segment. I am your host, Aisha Tamajang, and I'm joined today with Bunja Ceesay. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about migration and the journey home. We have a guest who has an exceptional story, if I may say, and I know you guys will be judging that also. A story of resilience, a story of hope, and a story that is founded in the journey back home, leaving home to come back. Bunja, I will allow you to introduce yourself.
Man, thank you, man. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Bunja M Ceesay. I was born in Banjul, August 29, 1989, and later moved to the village in Sikunda. That's where I was raised till I was 17. I moved to Serakunda when I was 17, 2006, and then went to GTTI. From there, I do job here and there. Then I decided to leave the country 2013. And here I am. But now, just to summarize it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good. Thank you for giving that introduction. So the issue of migration is something that we hear a lot in our country, especially the way we call it the back way. So, irregular migration, where folks are taking risky ways, risky routes to go to the global north for a lot of times socio-economic reasons. We know that in the Gambia, we have a very youthful population, a population of almost 70% or a bit over that are young people. And we also have a very high unemployment rate when it comes to the youths in the Gambia. And it's argued a lot for those who are taking that back way is they're taking it as a sacrifice. They're taking it as they don't see opportunity here on the ground in the Gambia. They don't feel like they have an option. So it's really, I rather die trying than live giving up has been the argument. And being that you are somebody who has been in that position, who has taken that journey, but now at a different age, with the maturity, with everything that you've been through, being back in the country and actually being an advocate for folks not to take that, I think it would be very interesting to hear about your story, Bunja, on how it started, what were some of the reasons why you decided to take that journey and when?
Yeah, thank you so much. It was my first, I went to that route twice. First time I went was 2011, when war was going in Libya, so everybody wanted to take as an opportunity because before nobody go to Libya, you go to Morocco. That's where our brothers went. They went through the boat from Gambia, like from straight to Spain. And back we have been existing for, I cannot count it, 50, 60, 70 years. And then on 2011, when NATO came for Gaddafi and they toppled Gaddafi, now it's the easiest road. That's one day from Tripoli to Italy coast. Okay, whilst in Gambia it takes you 7 days with the boat. I will never take that though. I don't have that fit though. Okay, and in 2011, I decided that, you know what, I want to go Europe, and then there's no way to go, The visa is not an option. I tried it before, but I never get luck, So I left with only one option, to go route. Then I started my journey in 2011 from Senegal, Mali, then from Mali I went to Algeria, and then I get locked up in Nigeria. Day before I leave, to Morocco. Then I was in prison for like 2 months, Then I escaped from prison and I came back home. That was 2011. And then when I came back home, I got a brother who was living in Spain by then. He was like, you know what, I'm going to bring you somebody that, who can marry you so that you can come straight away. But, you don't see this in public, but it's not a real one. Like, just to help you, come over there. And we went through that. Unfortunately, that didn't went through. We do get married and stuff legally and all of that. Then I was there 2011, 12, wait for the, straight way. It never came. And one day, by the time I never even want to go back now, because I started with business. I was doing some furniture business with my friend, start making little money. But, every Gambian want to see Europe at least once in your lifetime, whether it's holiday or whatsoever. So I just came back home one day, I can remember, it's 12 a.m. I told my friend Ibrahim, you know what? I'm going back to Libya tomorrow. He was surprised because I was somebody who was saying that, man, I'm never going to take that route. I almost lost my life there because it was a whole long story. It's an episode. I'm never going to do it again. But for some reason, I heard this guy is in Spain, that guy is in Spain, this boy make it, that boy make it, and all my friends, I'm like, hell no, I'm going. So that's when I decided. That was June 2013. Okay, normally when I'm traveling, whether it's Guinea-Bissau or this, I never tell anything to my mom. But for some reason, this is the first time I'm like, you know what? Maybe the reason why I don't succeed, everybody get in except for me because I'm hiding from my mom. My mom live in the village. But I don't know how to say this to my mom because I know her answer already. It's no, hell no. So bought her some stuff, about to be Ramadan, do big shopping, go there, I got home, with all my stuff, put it down. Hey, mama, you got something in your mouth, say it. What is it? Because all of this sign, I know you got something. I'm like, yeah, you're right. You know what? I want you to pray for me. I want to go back to Bakwe. And all of a sudden, her mood change, Why, you good. You here doing your small this and that. I'm like, mom, but you cannot compare with Europe, If I go to Europe, I can build my mansion, buy cars. You cannot compare with this, tutor. I was begging her for like 2 hours, And finally, she was like, you know what, you're my son. If you want to go, all I can do is pray because I know if I say don't go, you're not going to listen. So I'm going to pray for you, wish you all the best, wish I can see you again. Because normally when somebody going, you don't know whether they're coming back or they're never coming back.
Yeah.
It's a tough night, She pray for me. And then in the morning, that's how I start my journey.
So I think you have a very interesting story in the sense that you had made the journey once, and then you went Algeria for 2 months in prison, escaped, came back to the Gambia, and then you said, okay, I'm never taking this journey back. I'm going to see what I can do in this country and how I can be successful. You did your furniture business. And then after doing that, you still had this yearning that I want to experience Europe because I'm seeing all of my friends, they're going, why not me? And I think it has a lot to do with perception. Why perception in the sense that a lot of us have this idea that, this is the land of endless opportunity. Of course, when you go there, the little that I have is going to be a lot. And we also see it again because of the role, even in the Gambian context, when we see the diaspora, when they come, the things that they're able to do, the purchasing power is very different from what the average Gambian can. So you will always, in a sense, consciously or unconsciously try to equate your success to that and compare it. And even though you were successful, you said, you know what, I'm going to take this life-threatening journey again to do that. Now, can you talk us through what that journey was like? And during that journey, were there any regrets as you were going through it?
I mean, man, Bakwe is like a 10 episode, but just to summarize it, I went to, the first time I went, it was tough, definitely. My first journey, me, Omar, and one of my friends, we met at Kaulaga. People make groups like me and you on this, no matter what, we never gonna leave each other behind, and we're gonna stick together. And it was me, one of my friends, he in Germany now, and one of my friends, they just bring him back, they deported him. So we were in Mali, and then from Mali, we was in the desert in Niger. No, this was in Mali. And for us, we are so bad luck because some people in 2 days, they are at the border in Algeria. But for our vehicle, we get lost inside the desert, So we went to whole different route, where our vehicle stopped, on the mud. So to even get that vehicle out of the mud, the Arab guy, they just sit in the car. So we have the video one to do the manpower, make sure that we push this, Man, I almost like exhausted. And then the journey of 2 days turned to 3 days, 4 days. So normally you just buy your food and your water according to how many days you're going to spend on the desert. So which means that 1 day delay or 2 day delay, you can run out of food, you can run out of all, the things. So that's what happened to us. We drink our last water, our last food. So now we praying to God so that today we can make it to the border, And some people start flooding, lying down on the ground, I even remember, one of these guys, I don't know where he is now because it's bunch of us. Some people, German, Swiss, we all just, in different locations. He called his friend. He like, man, everybody had your money so that nobody see it. But he called his closest friend. He like, man, I got my money hide here, So in case if I die, take my money, because there's no hope, no water, no nothing. But unfortunately, we saw big truck coming, So we waved this truck, the Arabs, and they stop, they know that these people, they run out of water, they run out of everything. But before that, the Arabs do the gather water. They never run out of nothing because they own the vehicle. So they cook the food. I think that was the last meal that they was gonna give it to us. But that was this Cameroonian because this one nationality. But you know what just blow my mind? Gambia is 2 million people in population. But when it comes to migration, go through back way, Nigeria is 200 million people, but we almost barely dominate Nigerians. That's how you know this Gambian is a small country, but they travel a lot, especially. Imagine if you're 2 million, but you're comparing with 200 million.
And more of you are actually taking that route.
That means that it's crazy. The number is crazy.
And why do you think that is? I mean, I think it's very interesting, and I really want to get into the fact that you took the journey one time, you came back, you were successful in the Gambia, you had enough for yourself, and then you thought that you wanted again to pursue this journey. What was it specifically that made it worth your life to see that other side? And maybe this is also something that a lot of other Gambians are experiencing, because as you've said, when you look at the comparison and contrast between a huge population like Nigeria and a small population like Gambia, but when it comes to our patterns in that irregular migration, they're quite similar. What was going on in your mind emotionally and mentally?
I mean, in 2013, at that time, to me, it's like, I don't care how much money I'm making in Gambia. I just want to see Europe, because in TV, all the stuff you see about Europe, to me, I feel like no matter how much success I can get over here, I will get 10 times more over there. That was the mentality. So, and just to summarize that, I think it's just curiosity, because if I would have known what I know right now, I'm probably not going to even think about it, because a great example, I got one of these guys, he never left, he continued doing his business, I was there for almost over a decade. I came back, this guy got more money, way more money than me, way stable. Not even comparison, it's like a day and night, But at that time, my mama told me, yeah, you don't have to go, stick to your business, do your thing. But for me, my mama just don't want me to be, be anything, because you see these semesters come here with nice cars, they buy houses, and why I'm not going, you can do the same, don't go. But I came here, this guy is super rich, so I think it's curiosity, because after I make it to Italy, I don't regret why I came to Italy, but I regret the way I came to Italy. Immediately, like 1 hour on the soil, because I'm like, no, this is not what I see on
Talk us
TV.
through that. What was it specifically about Italy? So what city in Italy did you go to?
I mean, the first time I make it to Italy, I live in Udinese, so that's Sicilian. And when I get to Udinese and I see the Italians, like they're born, raised there, and they in the street, don't, even have a food, like they even will come to us. I saw these kids will come to our camp, trying to see if there's leftover, that they can eat, and the Italians, So I was like, okay, maybe I'm in Sicily. Maybe if I go to Milan, where the rich people are, it's going to be different. When you go to the village and you come to Seroconda, I'm like, because if at all it's all about this, no. I got to figure something out, So I was there, the first camp, I was there as a minor, like I was 16, So not actually 16, but 16. So, and then we asked for them to move us to a better living condition. And they took us to another city, Aragona. So we make it to Aragona, And I'm like, no, we still not, this is not Europe, man. The buildings are all, like I even see nicer buildings in Burfoot and other
Yes.
places than I'm like, man, am I still in? So I was there for 6 months. One day, this was 2014, New Year, they throwing their fire celebration. So one of these fire, exploded under my, lab. Then I was in hospital for 2 days. Then after that, then I disappeared. I went to Milan. So when I went to Milan, I went to the police, report myself to the police because I'm a minor. They say, where you come from? I'm like, Gambia, Then, but where in Italy, Sicilia? Okay, they take me to the minor camp. That's how I moved to Milan. But when I moved to Milan, now I know that I'm in Europe now. So
Yeah, but I think it's really interesting what you said about your first experience when you went to the first city in Italy, because perception is so important. And when we look at media, mainstream media, whether it's music, whether it's film, whether it's culture, a lot of times the global north, so like the Americas, the US, the Italies, the France, those big countries in the Western world, they're the ones that dominate those space. We're listening to all of those things, we're seeing all of those things, so we equivalent success to that. You know what I mean? We think that if you're a successful person, this is what it looks like. This is where you live. This is the type of car you have. And especially with your geographic location. And when you go to some of these places in these countries, you're almost like, what is this? You know? And I can really relate to that because I know that in the US, when you go to San Francisco, you're like, what is this? San Francisco has a huge homeless population. When you go to even certain places in Paris, you're like, what is this? You go to certain places in London, and it goes on and on and on. But it's the perception, because we're not showing those places in the media and in news when they're talking about Europe or when they're talking about the West or the global North. They are showing the nice places. However, when they talk about Africa, all we are seeing is not necessarily the Burfoots and the nice places. They will show like a very rural, remote, area. And Africa is always seen as the people that need help. We need to give them aid. We need to give them assistance. They need help. They need help. So even us as African people, unconsciously, it's being fed into our minds and our psychology and the way in which we even form our ideologies, where we get to a point where we're like, being African is not enough. If I want to be successful, I cannot be African. The day and age we live in now, I will say a lot has changed, even in the last 10 years, 15 years, because we see like cultures being dominated by Africans. You look at Afrobeat, you look at Nollywood, you look at all of these things. Even West Africa, they've had a huge impact and effect where you can actually look at people and see that success, and social media has amplified that. But I think in your days specifically and particularly, it must have been a shock to even see some of those communities. And even in Milan, it's lovely, but in Milan you also have areas that are not the best. So I think it's very interesting to look at that intersection of your perception, and then when you went, you look at the reality that you face there. So when you arrived, besides just, the reality check of what Europe actually is, what are some of the other challenges you faced? Was there anything in line of discrimination and racism? How was that for you, being confronted with that as a Black man in that world?
I mean, I always tell this to people. I don't know, for some reason, if it is meeting or it's general thing. My first time ever, face racism is against somebody who is even darker than me. This is Chicago. Damn, again, what I mean? But white, I never encountered racism from white people, to be honest, directly. I know my friends and other things, but for me personally, I cannot just say something that never happened to me. And all the bad experience, all the bad thing that happened to me came from people who looks like me, to be honest, I gotta say that. And when it comes to, one thing that to this date, I feel like I cannot even imagine is the small country like Gambia. Okay, let me tell you one thing. I think people joke about this country, but that's my perspective. Some might say you're wrong or this, but I think if there's a heart to Africa, it's Gambia, because look at Kunta Kinte, is a household name in America. But whoever you ask, in America, where Kunta Kinte from, they don't know, where he from. But the resilience and the bravery, and all the, other extraordinary things that I see in Gambians, man, if they would have put that into Gambia, man, we are Singapore, because all the other nationalities. I'm not saying that Gambians don't homeless in Europe or America, but you barely see a Gambian sleeping outside, no matter where they go. You can say here is a homeless city town, but if you're Gambian, somebody will say, "Boy, let's go home and sleep." Anywhere you go. I was confronted by a Nigerian. He asked me, he said, "But y'all do a wrong population census. Y'all always say Gambia is 2 million people. Y'all probably 200 million more than us." I say, "Why? Because you dominate also in Libya and Tripoli, more Gambian than us. Anywhere we go, you think there's Nigerian. There are more people on you than us in Europe." And the thing is, I think all the hard work, effort, and resilience, and all the bravery Gambian put into migration, if they put that into their own country, I mean, we can even ask people a visa to come here, And that's the only thing that blew my mind. But if you would have told me back in the days, 2013, I would, say, hey, I don't believe that. But the reason why I believe that, I've almost been to 20 countries by now. If I count it, it's almost close to 20. And anywhere I go, to be honest, I respect Gambians, And that makes me believe that, our biggest problem, Gambia right now, is not even about the finance, it's not about the economy, it's about the human resources. Because a lot of time when Gambians are travel, only the men are going, the females stay. And a country like that, a ratio to me, I think is 1 man to 10 women in the country. Look at the school. When I was growing up here, you go to school, when you see a group of people, it's group of men. But now when you go outside, wait until the school, the student coming from school, all you see is groups of girls. You may see 2, 3, 4 people, boys here and there. So that shows us that, our biggest problem in the future, 10 years from now, is going to be human resources, which means Gambians. We're going to be replaced by all these sub-region coming here, Senegal, this and that, because we have more migrants in Gambia. The youth, in next 10 years, it will probably be more outsiders than real Gambians. I take example from my village.
Yeah.
Growing up my village, we used to have 3 football fields, 1, 2, 3, and we fill up everyone, every last one of them. But now it's even hard to get first 11, because nobody there.
Yeah, and people are migrating to urban
No.
Gambia.
Before it was people migrate to urban, but now it become urban migration to western migration. If at all it's only rural to urban migration, that's no problem with that. You're still in the same country. But the worst thing is the urban migration to western migration. Now, when Gambians went to Europe, the first thing they think of is to bring all their families. Your mama, your kids. That's what they see as a success. But in contrast, I never see any country that develop by sending the people outside, I never see it,
Yeah, and it's very interesting that you say that, because we had an episode last week where we talked about this exactly, and we were talking about the diaspora, especially with folks migrating or immigrating. And I mean, there's a term that's called brain drain, where you take the sharpest of people or you take the strongest of people and they leave your country. That's actually a resource that your country is losing. For every person that leaves who had a capacity, who had a skill, the country that they're leaving is losing out. So it's a very good point that you bring in there. And I also remember hearing very recently, and which I didn't know, and you're also reinforcing that, is there are more people actually emigrating into Gambia than immigrating outside of Gambia. So we have more people from Africa because they're seeing an opportunity in our country.
Yeah.
And also the fact of, Gambians are very unique, in the sense that anywhere you go in the world as a Gambian, when you are a Gambian, you have a home. When you meet your fellow Gambian, you're good. Even when you look at our homelessness in our country now, you see it a bit more now because of the socio-economic situation has changed. But it's very rare to see people out in the street in comparison to like Nigeria, even Senegal, our neighbor, right? In Gambia, it's very hard to go, you go to your neighbor. We have that culture of generosity, of sharing, right? So I think that's a really interesting observation. And from your experiences with other people from the African continent who have told you, you guys must be 200 million because
people,
you're everywhere.
Yeah,
and you guys must, maybe there's this assumption even that Gambians, you guys are good because anywhere you go, it's easy for you to thrive and to succeed to some capacity. I think that's very interesting. I also think one of the things that you said about, not having experienced racism from white people when you have gone through your journeys, it's very important that to point that out, because a lot of times the experience of whatever group, whether it's a diasporan or Gambia or somebody who took the back way, irregular migration, we think that it's a monolithic experience, meaning that we think that everybody has the same experience, but everybody's experience is quite different. And there's this book that I read many years ago by a scholar called Frantz Fanon, and he talks about internalized racism. So the fact that Black people around the world, African people around the world, we have internalized racism because of we are racist against ourselves because of what we think this perception is. We think success is a white person. We think success is living in the West. So we internalize that so much that even when you're confronted by a mirror looking at yourself, you'll be racist to yourself. And that's a lot of times what it comes from, you know. I mean, yes, there's the dislike, but there's always this systematic and structural reason behind why we are the way we are. And a lot of times I know I have experienced that too, you can have more hostile energy from people who look like you than people who don't look like you because of that idea they also have. I know that even some people make an intentional effort when they immigrate that we don't want to be with our community people, we want to be away from them because they're loud and they're this, and you know, we rather be with white people because that's what we think is success. So it's very interesting to hear about your experience in that way. One thing I want us to also touch on now is you went to America from Italy, and that's where you're based-ish. You know, your situation is a bit interesting. Are you here? Are you there? But what made you go to America from Italy? What did that journey look like? And you did a very good job, Bunja. You know, kudos to you. I know you're a very humble guy, but you are very successful in your business in America. I would like to hear more about that.
I mean, okay, I never dreamed that I would ever go to America. I was never even think about it because a lot of time, you know, I don't know who is going to take me to America. I don't have, you know, pretty much somebody that I can say, or maybe one day my father or my days will take me to America. Okay, that's a very interesting topic because I was living in a minority camp in Italy. But I used to be in a house with 3 people, Musa, one of these Gambian guys, and the other guys from Morocco, Mohammed. I remember I told Mohammed, let's go out today. You know, I feel like today if I go outside, I will have a girlfriend. You know, he laughed at me. You know, he's like, man, you better go take us out. We just came here 6 months. Look at how, you know, rough you are. Nobody gonna like you. Man, I was like, okay, I don't care, but something tell me that I need to get out today. But normally when you live in a minority camp, at 10 p.m. you gotta be at home. You cannot be outside.
You have curfews.
So that was 9:30. Man, I said no, I gotta go out. So I told Mohammed, let's go. He said no, I'm not going. You know, I told okay, let's go. When you come, I'll give you something. He said, you know, this Arab guy. He said, okay, then let's go. I said, even they close the door, we gotta jump. But today we gotta go out. Today I have a good feeling that I'm gonna get a girlfriend because sometimes you say something you don't even know what's gonna happen. You know. And then we went to the central Milan, Duomo. Soon as we get there, you know, I saw these 3 American girls, you know, they inside the train. But the intention was not to go there and, you know, talk to them, trying to, you know, they lost. They got a map, you know, back in the days. They was looking at the map, trying to figure out where they're going. I saw them, I said, moment, I'm going to go talk to these people. I think they're not from here. They're trying to figure out where to go. I went there, you know, sit, you know, in the middle of them. The other guy is Diana, September Blue, and Ashley. It's 3 of them. They're all from Chicago. So I'm like, hey, sisters, I see y'all lost the way, you know, where you trying to go? They say, oh, you speak English good. You speak nice. I say, yes. You know, where you from? Gambia. Okay, we want to go to Hotel Milano, you know, but we lost. We don't know. I said, I think I know there, but I don't know this place. But this guy with me, the Arab guy, he know everywhere. So I talked to him Italian. I said, fratello, lo sai, you know, look at that. I tell them that, do you know where they're going? He said, I know. I said, let's take them. He was like, no, we're going to sleep outside. Let them go. I said, let's go, bro. He said, man, do you like somebody among them? I'm like, this, the other one. I think I like that. So I said, let's go. So then, you know, we start chatting, you know, trying to show them, you know. So we get to their hotel. And then we was like, okay, this is the hotel. They was very happy, you know. And the Diana, my ex-wife, you know, I was like, hey, you know, let me get your Facebook. Maybe I check on y'all, you know, this and that. So we share Facebook. And then the next day, I wrote her, she wrote me back, and the rest is history. So, she liked me. 6 months later, she came back to Milan for me, Like, I was still living in a refugee camp, like with nothing, with, not even a proper food, but for some reason, she loved me so much, And then she came, she said, oh, we've been talking for 6 months, and then she come over there, and then we get married, but our traditional married, like not a paper marriage. And then that's how I was, and I end up being American. Then when we get married, then a year later I was granted an Italian permit. Then I came to Gambia with her. She came from America. Then we met here, enjoying our holiday and stuff. Then she went back home, and now she filed for me as a fiancé. So that's how I get to Chicago. That's why that's how I went to America.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my journey to America.
That's your journey to America. Welcome to America. Yes, you went to America for love.
For love. For love.
Yes, that's an interesting story, and I think so. When you were taking that journey, when you had the furniture shop, you were successful, you were seeing the semesters coming in and dashing their money and going in the cars, and you said, I want to be one of them. You're on that mindset. Where were you thinking? Did you have a destination in mind?
My favorite country before I leave Gambia was Switzerland. Man, I can hardly see somebody coming from Swiss, man.
Yeah.
I would look at you like, man, you really from Swiss? And unfortunately, I went to Swiss 2015, seek for asylum. They take me to take my fingerprint, I change my name. So in Italy, I'm Bunja. Over there, I'm Bakari, So I was in the refugee camp for like 1 month. They take me to Lausanne, give me a house on the ground. Switzerland have nuclear bunkers that if nuclear war come, they can put everybody on the ground and they can protect their citizens from nuclear attacks. So they open those places for refugees, man. The door is a concrete, but the door is like this. I never see anything like that, man. So I was in Switzerland for like few months. I don't like Switzerland, and I was like, man, this is my dream country, but I don't like this place, man. Then I leave and went back to Austria. So I was in Austria, till I went to America. After leaving Italy, then I, Austria, Switzerland, then I went to America. Sometimes in Germany, but going back and out. Yeah.
And what were you up to in Chicago when you got there? What have you been doing?
Okay, Chicago. When I first went to America, I lived in Arizona for 9 months. It's a nightmare. I even want to go back to Europe. Yeah, it's hard, way harder than Gambia at that time. And I was like, man, really? Am I still in America? This is way harder. So I was there for 9 months, only my wife working. I get frustrated, coming from Europe. I used to have some, little bit money. I bought my first property, second. I was a little bit up there. So coming from that to America and not make money for 9 months frustrate me, And then my wife decided that we got to go back to Chicago, And then she quit her job. We went back to Chicago. So first time we get to Chicago, we live in not the best neighborhood, 63rd. People know 63rd all over the world. Little dog and all of that. Yeah, but I live closer to that, So that's how I moved to Chicago. When I moved to Chicago, I see black people. I think I'm in Africa because I live in Southside. I'm like, okay, I think I'm in the right distance. And I can see people look like me, like I'm in the, So that's how I moved to Chicago, So when I moved to Chicago, my first job is washing cars. I never do a hard job like that in my life. The first time I ever have a hardest job was in Chicago. I wash cars from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Like only 30 minutes break. And they pay you only $6 per hour, I still feel like, man, I don't know why I take this decision.
So 6 a.m. to 7
p.m.
p.m. And so island, okay, yes.
Yeah. And you have only 30 minutes break, you wash in cars, car after cars, car after cars, car after cars. So from there, one of these guys, from Gambia, Omar, I talked to Omar. I'm like, man, I gotta quit this job. If not, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna make it. He was like, okay, I'm gonna take you to one of these sandwich shops, Subway. You're gonna get a job. So I went to Subway. They hired me. I was very happy. Now I'm working indoors, and it's February instead of working outdoors. Then I work in the Subway sandwich. For like 7 months. 8 months, then I was able to put $1,000 together. For 8 months, it took me 8 months. My first $1,000, I went and buy a Honda Civic, small car. So when I bought that, my wife was sleeping, she didn't know that I bought a car, because we don't have a car. We both struggling now. See, from there, but we both struggling, walking on the snow, so it frustrated me as a man in the house, so I work hard, Then I came in the morning, I knock out, I was like, man, I bought a car. She was surprised. Really? How do she came outside, she saw Honda Civic. Oh my God, this boy have a car, So I went to register for Uber so that I can drive for Uber. But in 2018, in 19, Uber was not accepting 2003 cars. So my car is 2003. So I have only 3 months before my car cannot drive for Uber because it's old. When they told me that, I was like, 3 months, okay, give me 3 months. By the time I might put money to, but I'm making more money now with Uber. So in within that 3 months, I was able to put at least 3,000, 4,000 on the side and upgrade the car. So that's how I get to the Uber, and the rest is story, Yeah.
The rest is history.
Yeah, the
So
rest
I
is
heard
history.
also that you worked in construction in America and you opened a business, a construction business that did quite well. And that has also had a huge connection with your return back in the Gambia and some of the things that you want to do for young people here. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I mean, okay, when I first went to Chicago, I tried to get into the electrical union because I was an electrician before I lived here, and came to find out that it was very hard to get into electricity. And then I try now, because this is how it works in America, my experience with the electrician. They have a union, local 134. My area is local 134. Okay, during this selection, they may probably select like 1,000 people, and out of that 1,000 people, they only need 200 people, like every 3 months or every 6 months, I forgot. So I went for the exam once. They sent me a letter, no, you're not in. Second, you're not in. So I talked to one of the guys. I'm like, man, I have passion for, construction, that's what I do. I'm an electrician, How can I get into the trade job? Because I don't want to be a nurse. But like, all people around me, and my friends asking me to go for nursing, and when I call back home, my mama and them, they think that nurse, because everybody in America, are you a nurse? If you're nurse, you're good, I'm like, let me give it a try. So I went to the Malcolm X, it's a college, Malcolm X College. I was there for only 1 semester, man. I think I failed every last one of them. The next semester I quit, and then that's how when I decided, I'm like, man, if I cannot get into electrician, so for whatever reason, let me talk to somebody that if I can switch my, occupation and go into plumbing, Then I talked to one of these guys, he like, me, you wasting your time. Those white people not going to get you into the union. He said, look, if they select 100 people, only 2 people is black or 3 people, Hispanics and black. 90% is white, because that's the best job. People don't know, they have misconception. It's hard to get into the trade job in America, because they unionize they reserve that job for Caucasian, not even white, Caucasians, And I went to the city college, I said, hey, I want to do electrician. They said they don't have electrical program in colleges. The only way you can get in, if you go to private school, which you can spend two years, and after do 2 years, you still need to go to the union and able to, get your all the things that you need. So I diverted and I went for plumbing, in Kennedy King. So went to plumbing, get my plumbing certificate, and I start working with the local, contractors, Mohammed, Mr. Smith and all of them. And that was the best thing ever happened to me.
Yeah.
I, even after
Changed your life.
Yeah, it changed my life for life, So doing that for a short period of time, and me being me, I felt like, okay, in America, yes, you can do your things in this game, but these people, they finish building to me, they have already built. But what about a ground like Africa, who haven't even started, nothing yet? Maybe the highest here is probably like maybe 13, 14, I don't know. And then that changed my mind to come over here, to, do my things in Gambia. But for here, my dream, my goal, not my dream, my goal is to make sure that, I, more in the technical side, than the actual labor side, because I feel like Gambia is lack of professionals, When you call somebody to come paint your house, they may come paint your house, but everywhere is, dairy after even they finish the job. Like there's no, I don't know how to call it. So I feel like I'll be so useful, coming back home than to do my things over there. That's when I decided to,
I think it's very interesting that you mentioned that you were an electrician by trade in the Gambia.
Yeah.
You went back to, when you went to America, you tried to use
in
those
it.
skills to get into that,
Yeah.
but the union made it
They
impossible.
block all the ways, man.
It goes back to that point of like, that is discrimination actually, but it's
Yeah.
discrimination like systematically.
Systematically.
Even they're not doing it in your face,
yeah,
but
yeah.
the reality
Yeah,
is in those countries,
Yeah.
like discrimination is bigger than what you experience in your
Yeah,
interaction. It's like the
because-
systems are not built for you to succeed
Yeah.
as a black person.
If I would have want to go to nursing, here is a student loan. Have this,
Yeah.
have this, because you can go take care of the seniors, the people that need to, and they are kids.
Elderly care, yeah.
The kids don't want to take care, do that kind of jobs, But when it comes to trade, like I think Gambia even need to make the same move, because if you see somebody do something and it works for them, and you'll be doing something that's not work for you for centuries, you probably may start looking at like, man, why can I do it like them? So that's why, I was so happy. Normally when I come to Gambia, I'm low-key, This is the very first time I come to Gambia with the mindset that, I think I can make it here. My dream of being a West is over. And I never been to the impact, meeting or stuff like that. But the first time I ever went to a meeting like that, that's when I met Salu, I went there, like just a local boy sitting down, listening, to the bigger heads, because, to the privilege, But after everybody speak, but the only one speak that moved me was Salu, Salu just stand. We were like, man, we've been doing this meeting forever, and all the time we keep talking about the same thing. I think it's now, we have to talk about how can we help the privilege, underprivileged, because everybody is in this room, I think is privileged, So we don't have anybody in the who is underprivileged. So how can we help the people who are not, privileged? That's what we need to talk about than all these meetings.
And maybe for those who are listening, like, I think that was a big moment for you being in that setting. Maybe, I know they don't know what that is, but it was a brunch that you went to, a networking event, and you were there with some other Gambian people who worked in business, and they were talking about pushing boundaries or bridging building or something like that. So you being in that environment and having somebody who talked about the fact that to do that, we actually have to do that and bring in people
like us,
like yours,
people,
yes.
and because I think 80% or 90% of Gambians' story is my story, You're from the village, then you move to the Serakunda, then you move to Europe, Like everybody gotta start from the village, and that's 80%. Even maybe your grandfather came or your great-grandfather, but it's only small 10% of Gambians who are originally from this area of Gambia.
The privileged,
the privileged. So the rest have to migrate from here, And even the backway, when you look at the backway, 80% of people who go to backway are underprivileged. They don't go to universities, they don't have access to the visa and all of that. And that's 80% of Gambia. So if somebody said you sitting in the meeting, you don't say nothing for like an hour, and somebody said, hey, how can we also talk about people like Bunja, And then after the meeting, I went to him. I'm like, introduce myself to him. So that's how, met Salu and, all kind of stuff. But the thing is, like, it's always in me since I went to Chicago. I see how these people, set up their system to the point that nobody gonna come their country and take advantages, and then go out, like state in the union. I came with the same dream. I'm like, man, I think this is what we need. We need to build a school, and we make sure that if you want to be electrician, you gotta go to 5 years program. And every year, and this is paid program, your first year you get maybe 15% of the journeyman salary. When we say journeyman, somebody who completed and apply, and have the license, to be a plumber any all the 50 state. And the first year 25, second year 35, third year 50, fifth year 40, fifth year you are 100%. You making the same as all the qualified, electrician and stuff,
Yeah.
And things like to implicate that, people, somebody like me who is not that privileged, I cannot do it by myself, So that's why meeting people like Uncle Taf, and Salu, and they welcome it, and I appreciate that, because a lot of time, a lot of people in Gambia, they sit in the background, talking about people who are success, they're not talking nice about them. I'm not saying nobody, but majority not talking about people who make it, A lot of time it's kind of negativity there, And I think that put the boundary between the privileged and underprivileged in this country. It's the communication. It's not like they're not communicating. Everybody stay on your lane. And
I think you bring in a very important point there with that communication gap and that invisible barrier that has just been constructed where you have them and us. You have two different sides. And then you have a lot of times what we see is that there is the side who have the mic, who talk about development and migration and what we need to do. Sometimes they don't understand the realities because they're speaking on the behalf of other people.
Exactly.
And when you were in a space like that, where you felt that that was happening again, and you had Sally who was advocating for bringing in other people, I don't even think he knew that you were actually who you were, and he didn't know your story at the time.
He never knew me before. I never met him, never knew him. He just said something that touched me, that I feel like he's talking directly to me.
It resonated with you, and I think it's the importance of partnership, it's the importance of solidarity and standing up for each other and allying. And then I think what really comes to the heart of it is storytelling. You telling your story, Bunja, a lot of people will also be able to resonate with it. You telling the story of what was in your mind when I left the first time. I came back, I worked hard, I got something, but I wasn't fulfilled. I thought that to have fulfillment, I have to go to a different country. I have to go to the West. I have to go to Europe. I have to go to Switzerland to be successful. Come like the Wallaful say, danga hebon lo amon, tale, you know? And then you come back to the Gambia and you see, no, I actually have an opportunity here. You went and you saw the reality. You got what you wanted. You were successful in your plumbing business and you had enough, but still not fulfilled because you've seen that, this is not everything that I thought it is. And I know that there's opportunity on the ground for me. And what I think people that are listening to this episode, and even for me, it really touches me, your story, is the fact that you go through all of that so that your brother or your sister doesn't have to go through that, and so that they know that there are opportunities here. You talked about in that side of the world when it comes to vocational skills, plumbing, construction, painting, those people are the ones that make the most money. Even when it comes to farmers in that setting, those people are the ones that make the most. And coming back to Gambia, a huge part of our collective responsibility is to change perception. We have to change the way in which we perceive skills. An electrician, it should be something institutionalized. You should have the union, it should be strong. Because even you look at our economy or our market, those are the things that we spend a lot on. Everybody needs an electrician constantly. Everybody's building. People need to paint. We are a huge society and we are a huge economy that depend on those skills. But I don't think we value them and we don't invest in them as we should. And I really think the work that you want to do, I know we spoke about it personally, but if you can tell us more about what your plans are in the Gambia to make sure that these skills, we have talked about TVET a lot in Gambia, we love talking about technical vocational education and training, but to have that, we have to understand even like the social part of it. You know, it's one thing to have a training program, but the mentorship has to go hand in hand because of our context. How do we persuade young people, convince them and show them stories like yourself who have already gone through that and said, you know what, no, you can actually make it here. And like you mentioned, your friend who didn't take that journey, he's even become more successful than you are.
Way 10 times more.
Yeah,
that's very important, thank you, Okay, first of all, this is my perspective, everybody have their own different opinions. But I feel like, an average Gambian spend 90% of his lifetime income on construction. Because it's everybody dreams to build a nice mansion. And a lot of us, 90% of come from the a house that need to be built, whether it's your father's house, whether it's your own house, It's different from Europe, where, government can give you social housing and all, and nobody give you social. You gotta build your own. So that put a Gambian into a position that 90% of their life income, like your lifetime, all the things that you earn in your lifetime, 90% of them go to trying to build a house or trying to have a compound. Okay, if you have a country like that, you gotta protect that sector, more than any sector. Because you see what start happening now. Friends of mine now, if they want to build a nice mansion, they put $10 million together. They don't want to give it to a Gambian contractor. Because the Benin and the Togo and all these countries, they came here and built their own group, and this group probably don't have any Gambian among them. So if I'm sending back a fish money back home and the rice for my family, that's just maybe a year is a fraction of my yearly income. Maybe, if I make $1 million a year, my family only eat maybe 100,000 out of that. 900 go to the hands of people who, the moment they get that money, they send it right back outside, and the money don't remain here. Okay, Gambian diaspora contribute almost $700 million per year. That's close to $1 billion, according to the data. I know it's more than that because there's no data to track that, but I can argue that 80% of Gambian developments don't come from the government. It comes from the individual. You build a nice house, he build a nice house, the guy build a nice house. It's not the government project, And what happened in Gambia, the reason why we are where we are, let's say I need an electrician or I need to build a house, and I spend $100,000 in this house. But all these $100,000, the product I bought it from the other people, not trying to mention any names. So what does those to your country is like the money is coming in but it's going right back out, And instead of it circulate, because the reason why it don't circulate because the Gambians are not the control of that sector. They don't want to be electrician, they don't want to be plumbers, they don't want to be painters, they don't want to be tile man, they don't want to, all they want to be the first them is to be a semester. You gotta make it to Europe, But let's say you make it to Europe now, you become successful, you send that money back home to Bill and Mason. All the money you send back home is going back right where you are, again. So you're not, we remain the same. The payment system, electrician, you pay him, he go home, he buy a bag of rice, the money is gone. And the only reason we can try to change that is to unionize. Gambians have to have a union about all these construction sectors. All the school system that we have in Gambia, for instance, is not working for us. Can we please drop this mathematics, English class? They're not working for us, and there's a proof that it's not working. Let's make sure that we have skills, We have enough electricians and they're Gambians. We have enough plumbers, they're Gambian. We have enough, engineers. We have enough this. I saw one of these guys on internet the other day. I think he make electrical cars. I don't know what is his name. He's a young boy. And he was saying on internet that, if I have a $30 million, I can challenge Gambian importing vehicles, which means that he can manufacture a lot of electrical vehicles. But he has proven it because he been making these mini tractors as a, He has proven it. He show you science, he's 100% make it. But the government and all the people, they ignore people like that, And the only reason, we can get out of that, let's get into the skills. Let's make sure that we manufacture. Let's make sure that we provide our own services. If not, somebody will gonna come and take all the money out. So we're gonna remain the same. And that's why when I met Salu, I talked to him. I said, hey, we gotta make sure that we have a trade school that is a 5-year program. Okay. You come in the first time, you gotta get some, even somebody who never been to school, you can able to have access to go straight to the training school. Depend on your SAT, you gotta study to get in. And once you get in your first year, you are a first-year apprentice. Second year apprentice, third year. By the time you finish 5 years, you are professional. If they send you to America, you do a tiling or whatever your skill is, they're not gonna laugh at you because they know that you're making a standard like them, So that's the only way we can go,
It's very important.
It's very important. The skills, Gambia is lack of the skills.
It has to be marketable, international, fit everywhere. It can't just be a Gambian niche because, like you said, you had the electric skills and then you went to America, but you weren't able to get into that because they were not international. They're very unique.
They select. America make their mind.
Yeah.
And they put it on the papers. Do you want to be accountant? Here is student loan. You want to go for nursing? Here is student loan.
Yeah.
But do you want to go to the trade? As a matter of fact, they will pay you to go learn. When you get into the trade job in America, they start paying you the moment they said you are accepted. That's the moment they start paying you. Imagine you learning something and they paying you versus you learning something but you taking student loan to learn it and you're gonna pay that student loan in interest and all of that. That means that they don't care if you all take all that kind of jobs. But the only thing they want to protect is a skill works. America, the skill built America. The reason why they was able to make build 100 floors, 200, 100 floors, 90 floors, is because of the skills, and they protect it because not because of us Africans, because the Hispanics. Okay, I have one of these Hispanics, man. This guy don't even have papers in America. But he been buying houses like it's nothing because he have a team. Okay, he don't even have a license, but they use each other's license. Maybe if you are Hispanic, you have a license to take a contract, then you take a contract and we work under you. So there's so many lobbies. So America trying to, they're trying to,
Yeah, we
make
see
sure that
what's
going on.
happening and what
Yeah, meaning,
the administration now is
you know
doing.
the law they put on the
Yeah.
union. If you go through the union in America as a plumber, after your 5 years, you come out of union and you're not working under the union, you want to establish your own plumbing company or electrical company. The union, the government said every plumber you employ under your company, you have to pay $10,000 to the union, simply because that makes that they want you to stick with the union. They don't even want you to have your own business on the side. And if the contract comes, the government will consider people who are on the union than non-union. You can go on the non-union.
The incentives to be.
But the non-union is 7 years. Union is 5 years. Going to union, your job is secure for life. But to be independent is hard. So that's why some people take on non-union route. That's why I go to the non-union. I talked to somebody who have 50 years experience. He said, come here, let me give you a game. He's American, and I always talk to him. Good guy. Go get your certificate. Make sure that, don't go through the union. Go outside of the union. If you got to do 7 years, do it till you get all your papers, so that you can able to be your own boss and you don't have any rule over you after you finish in your school. The reason why they do that, because America have to protect that sector, the construction sector. And if the Gambian don't, take that route, our street going to be remain like this. You driving, you feel like you're driving the desert and all of that, because what can you do?
Yeah, very interesting things that you've mentioned during this episode, and it's a very touching story, and as you said, a lot of people can resonate with you because you are part of that majority and what most people are going through. Like I said in the beginning, the issue of migration, the issue of back way, something that we hear a lot of times, especially amongst our young people. So just to round up the episode, what are some of the reflections, what are some of the advice that you can give to the young person who is frustrated, who is tired, who has lost hope and faith in the fact that they can prosper in this country? What do you tell them? What should they do?
I mean, I know, for those people, they're not going to like what I'm going to say, because they're going to say, oh, you make it. That's why you're saying that if you was in our position, you're never going to speak like that. Yeah, I was in your position and I got people who already told me what I'm about to tell you. I don't listen to them. So it's your choice to listen to me. But let me tell you, I can sit here and name few people who never make it to Italy. They die. I got a friend, Yankuba, they born alive. I got his picture on my phone. I can show you this picture. They born him alive in Libya. So, and the same time, Gambians, we're taking a lot of L's than wins when it comes to migration, because people only see the nice house and the nice car. That's where the mentality ends. Above that, they don't see nothing. Okay, Kim Jong-un was crying on the TV. He's a dictator. He was crying, but not because of, somebody want to invade him. No, he's asking his citizens to give birth because, the way the rates is going, they're going to be a country without nobody. Russia is bigger than us, 2 million people plus. Vladimir Putin just tell his people that we got to go back to our grandma style when they used to give birth to 8 kids, 9 kids, You got to go back to that, because the way we're going, South Korea in 2050, South Korea, they will the birth rate, if they go like this in the next 50 years, the country will be closed, because the birth rate, China, people be saying contracts about China, said they have a policy that if you have certain child, no, it was there, they just changed it. China have a policy that, you cannot have this certain kids, but now they change that you can have whatever kid, because every nation is afraid of population degrade is the most, scary things facing every nation. Okay, a country of 2 million people. From where I came from, I'm taking example from where I came from, Sekunda. 80% of the youths went to Europe. You go to provinces, the compounds start getting locked because the last papa is there is dead, so nobody want to live there. Okay, go get your house, cars, this, but if nobody live there, what's the uses, And Gambia have to start thinking of nice house, nice car, and think of, is Gambia going to belong to Gambians one day if the birth rates go like this? Because nowadays the Gambian youths have more kids in Germany than they do in Gambia, because German passed a law. They said if you have a baby, you're pregnant a girl, you got a permit to stay. And even our religion, they don't allow you to have a baby before marriage. It's forbidden here. We call that jankadem. I've been hearing that my whole life. But you go to German, why German will tell our kids that, in order to stay in our country, you have to, in a return, we need a baby from you. Okay, you have 3 kids in Germany, you have 0 kids here. Those kids are not coming back here. 9 out of 10. I'm not saying 10 out, but 9 out of 10, they're not coming back. And which means that, there's a highly chance that your mama is not going to see your grandkids, your papa not going to see your grandkids. So if that trend continue, which means that, we might build a house, but who is going to live there?
Yeah.
I can guarantee that the past 10 years, Gambians have more kids outside than they have in the Gambia combined.
You think so?
Yeah. The youths. But I'm part of them. I'm part of these people. When I was in the
I'm not sure what the statistics are exactly. But
I don't know.
Yes.
But like I said, I'm part of them. I was in Libya twice. I was like, the amount of people, the youth I've been seeing in Libya, and they all from Gambia, is a mind blowing. Like who left back home? Who are there now?
I think one of the tricky things also is the data issue, right? But it's the amount of Gambians that are actually there. We have an approximate of how many diasporans there actually are. It's not a huge significant amount. I think the last time I checked, it was around 200,000, but this is registered. We know that some people are undocumented, so it's very difficult to put in statistics.
Now, if you want to know,
and add in that, but just to take it back to coming to an end of the episode, because I know this is a whole other conversation in itself, but just the advice part on what we can tell the young person and what reflections and lessons learned that you have from your experience.
The lesson that I had learned from my experience to going to Barkway is like, it's not worth it to me. I know they're going to say, like I said, you make it. But first of all, you go to Barkway, you make it to Europe or wherever you make it. Yeah, your life may change. You may have a house. You may change your family's life, But in the long run, it's not going to be helpful to the country and the nation and the villages and the community as a whole. If you see it in that perspective, it's not our best interest. But if you see, in other perspective, life, it changed lives. Yeah, it do change life. I know I'm in a better position than I was, back in the days, that I thank God for that, But I have to get to the certain point. This is maturity in me now. I'm not the same guy 10 years ago, If I'm the same guy 10 years ago, nobody going to sit in my face and try to convince me that, going to Europe is not the solution, No, but I get to the point that, I came back here. I'm not even seeing somebody that I know from childhood. I barely see them. Okay, when you want to know the statistic about this, all these things, don't look at what the internet say. Look at the village we come from. My compound in Jara, a lot of them is foreign. The next compound next to me, all the kids in foreign. The next compound next to it, and if you go to Badub, it's like that. You go to Bolonkona, it's like that. You go to, all different part of Gambia, it's like that. That's how you look at the statistic. How many youths were in this compound 10 years ago, and how many people are there? 10 years ago, it's 20 people. These 2024, how many people? Only 2 people, or maybe nobody. Where are they? They all in Europe.
Yeah, it's
and this touch all 4 corners of Gambia. Yeah. So that's how I look at the statistic.
Yeah. It's interesting, but maybe from my background, being a policy making and strategic and operational planning statistics, I think data is very important because data is power. Yeah. Data allows us, even in the work that you want to do in terms of institutionalizing and having unions and looking at things structurally and from a systematic perspective, we have to have data to inform what we do. And like you've mentioned before about America and some other nations who have done that, they've been able to do that because of data. It's very difficult to predict. Of course, we can from the back of our minds and we can from our own samples of what we know and who we've connected with, you could have that assumption, but somebody who doesn't have the exposure that you do has a whole other assumption. But when you have very hard data and clear facts, you're able to cater more to the realities, right? And I think, again, I know we have institutions in in the Gambia that are collecting data. IOM, they do it quite a lot. You have GBUS, but specifically also in these areas, like per constituency, you know, how many people are actually going out, how many people are there, and following that can be very interesting in our immigration trends, certainly. But I will put the conversation to an end now, Bunja, and we want to thank you very much for taking your time during Ramadan to talk to us about this very important topic. And I look forward, and I'm sure a lot of us who are listening in to following your journey. Abaraka Bake Mokende, Abaraka Bake.
We're going to do another episode again. I'm leaving very soon, but in the future, we're going to have more episodes again.
Inshallah. Abaraka. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.